do. The name of this video is Leading versus Controlling, What a Man Leading in a Relationship Looks Like. And I really, really feel like hearing it from a man's mouth and his perspective hits a little bit different than when women speak on men's business, right? So we're going to listen to this brother and this sister engage. Now, I listened to the first, and so let me be honest, I listened to the first few minutes, and that was all I really needed. So over half of the video or half of the content of this video is going to be a raw reaction from me. But like I said, right out the gate, he's going to be dropping some gems. So please engage in the chat and let me know, based on your conversation, if you want to interact with one another, if there's something you want me to highlight or speak on. I'm watching the chat while I am actually going through this video.
So I know we're answering both of her questions, but she talked about the difference what's a leader versus a controller. Mm-hmm. And I'll take a swing at that.
Knock it out.
and try to help
I trust you'll knock out the part.
I think that as a leader, you have to have a few things, and that's number one, you have to have empathy. You have to be able to be empathetic to understand somebody's, where somebody's coming from. You got to, and that piggybacks with, you also need to have perspective, be able to see things from different point of views, and see where somebody's coming from. And you also have to have the ability to sacrifice.
Okay, so let's unpack this, right? The first thing that he mentioned was empathy. A lot of times empathy can be equated, depending on who is defining it, with a form of weakness, when my perspective is totally the opposite, because it broadens your ability to be able to deal with situations in a mature fashion and in an appropriate fashion, in my opinion. So when you can empathize and you can sympathize with someone else, first of all, it takes you out of yourself, right? It takes you out of your own being selfish and out of your own head. And it allows you to actually feel possibly what the other person is going through, which also puts you in a position to be open. It makes it okay for you to be somewhat vulnerable because you're not just thinking of yourself, right? So the second thing that he mentioned was perspective, right? And so we always talk about perspective. And again, getting out of our own heads and listening to understand instead of respond. And I'm going to repeat that until people get that, because it might sound redundant, but it's extremely huge. And it's so important, because that is what the definition, in my opinion, of communication is. And communication is probably 90% essential for a successful relationship. Because if a person does not feel heard or understood, then they close down. And if you don't feel like you trust someone or that you're comfortable enough in their presence to open up around someone else, then guess what? You don't get to move forward. There's no progress that's going to be made, because now everybody done shut down. Everybody is on the defensive. And so now nobody's listening to understand, but we're listening to react, right? So Miss SJ says, empathy leads to openness to other perspectives. Bingo. And that's exactly what he's saying, because he led with empathy as the number one example of why he is just getting ready to justify what leadership looks like in a relationship, and led right into perspective. And in my opinion, they go together, right? And then the third thing that he mentioned was sacrifice. So I think sacrifice in a lot of areas today is lost. And so we live in such a narcissistic culture and society, and with the music and the undertones and the lyrics of the songs that are being pushed out to the masses, to our children, first and foremost, because they're targeting our children. Okay, the older people they're trying to get rid of, but the younger children, the younger human beings, if they can catch them early, then their job is easier to control, right? So when you talk about sacrifice, if you're not ready to sacrifice, then do not pursue a relationship, because every successful relationship is going to require sacrifice, and every failed relationship is going to lack sacrifice. And that is just that. So, with that being said, as Jay also says, sacrifice as a leader is amazing. Let me tell you something. It as so looking at it from a woman's perspective, and a man is able to embellish the two and balance the two in a relationship, it allows us to be in our femininity. It allows us to make it easier to trust a man to lead, because not only is he doing it and exercising his leadership skills and his ability, and he's feeling comfortable in his role that God assigned him, in my opinion, but now he's willing to sacrifice, so there is balance there. And women, you're right, that combination, it really brings an element to the relationship that we absolutely can sit in our femininity. And we can, therefore, if we sit in our femininity as women, as the wife, as the girlfriend, as the mother, then our jobs can be executed and our roles in the relationship can be executed more successfully. So there's that balance that is required in a successful relationship, but it takes understanding what our particular roles are, who we were created to be, whether we're male or female, and how we implement that into our relationships in order to make it a long-term successful relationship where we can pour into our children and show them what works instead of what does not work, right? So let's continue.
And I heard this in a video, and I think it's a perfect description of what leadership is. And leadership is not about being in charge. Leadership is about taking care of the people in your charge.
Boom. He's going to repeat that. So we're going to let him repeat that.
Say it again. Say it again in the camera.
Leadership is not about being in charge. Leadership is about taking care of the people in your charge.
Ooh, listen, that's a bar. Come on now, hold on a second. Bolo, I'm glad you're here, because hold on a second. That's a bar. I need for us to be able to pause and digest that, right? Welcome, Bolo. Thank you for coming in. Hey, Sassy81. If I didn't speak to you, I'm not sure if I did or not. I wanted to make sure I greeted you. Thank you for being here. So he said, it's not about being in charge. Hello. But it's about taking care of those that you are in charge of, right? That are in your care, that are in your tribe, that you are assigned to be responsible for. Look at the look on her face, y'all. That was a perfect pause right there, because she is like, okay, yeah, that's a bar. Hello. Listen, so much so that we had him repeat that. But that is super, super important. But what is even more impressive is that he understands that, because it's going to totally shift how he utilizes leadership in that relationship. Right? Come on now, let's continue.
Period.
It's about making sure that the people who you are leading are good and are protected and are cared for. And you have to be empathetic in order to do that. You have to be willing to sacrifice and put yourself on the line in order to make sure that they're good. You have to be okay with them taking the credit and wins and you taking the credit and losses, and being responsible for those things. You have to take things on the chest. You have to be the one that's in the front sometimes, that takes more of the beating to make sure that the person is protected. That's
how many people are willing to do that in relationships, though? Because a lot of times I'm hearing, like, not all the time. So I'm not making putting everybody under the same umbrella. But what I am saying is, like, more common than not. And again, I blame the culture of the music. I blame the media. I blame television. I blame all of these outside sources that keep us divided as a family. I blame the social services systems that focus on taking care of single mothers where they ease the fathers and the husbands out of the home, right? But how many really look at it from that perspective and are willing to be on the front line to say, I am taking that hit for something bigger than myself? I'm gonna repeat that. How many of us, and I'm not just gonna put that on men, I'm also going to throw women into that subject and say, how many of us humans are willing to take a hit for something bigger than ourselves, something bigger than our own personal needs, our own personal wants, allowing our distrust and our past trauma to dictate how we respond to something, just to look at the outcome of taking care of ourselves, right? So that is super important. And he, like I said, this video isn't long, but every word that he says, I think is a bar. That's just, well, like I said, I've only listened to the first couple of minutes of this video. So most of this is going to be a raw reaction. But so far, like, that was all I needed to listen to in order to be willing to use this video and this reference as an example and as a conversation point to kind of open the discussion for the relationship aspect and the difference between leading and controlling. Welcome, Andre. Thank you for coming in. Yes, it's always a pleasure. Peace and blessings to you. Let's continue.
So leadership is, it's being in servitude of those who are following you, not being the boss or dictator of those who are following you.
Hey, Dre, check this out. We don't ever do this. We don't ever do this. But when this episode rolls and you go to cut your clip, this is the clip. Okay. This is the clip. And when you cut it, send it to me so I can post it on my page too. Okay. This week I'm posting your clip. Okay. I'll post mine later. That's the clip. That's
it. I agree with her. And that's all I'm going to say. I'm sorry to interrupt, but she saw and heard something that resonated with her loudly enough, like I did. And hats off to this brother. Look at the smile on his face. He seems to be so at peace and so assured with himself in his energy and in his role, that you can tell that what he's saying has worked for him. And it seems to me, my discernment is picking up that it's a pleasure of his, not just that it's worked for him, but that he's able to share that with others so it can work for them as well. Right? So let's continue.
Clip. I only have one follow-up question to that. How is a leader able to be empathetic? How does a leader go about doing that? Like what do you think that involves or includes?
Like how to become more empathetic?
How to become empathetic to the people that are in your charge?
I think it's a mindset shift, I think, coming into whatever position of leadership that you're going into. Because all I can think about is myself and how I got to the point to where I'm at versus how I've been in situations where I feel like somebody isn't empathetic. It's about your mindset and desire and intention going into the relationship. For me, it's like I wanted to be the best for Bree. I wanted to be the best man I possibly can be. I wanted to create the best environment that we lived in and create the best environment for our future kids and future and family and all that stuff. So I know going into that, it's not about me being right or her being right. It's us coming together and creating an environment that's healthy and just happy and fun. And that takes me listening to her and understanding what she needs, understanding what she wants. Because as a
Oh, boy, didn't I say that? And I haven't heard this part. He said it. Listening to understand. That is so crucial. It sounds like a cliche, but it's so crucial to the line of communication, which in turn, it promotes successful relationships. Because even when you have disputes, differences of opinion, you're not looking at things, you're not on the same page for that particular moment, just to be able to vocalize that to one another and to give a reason why you feel the way that you feel, you can gain understanding. That's why I often hear people say you got two ears and one mouth for a reason, right? I have trained, I had to unlearn and relearn how to listen. I remember in my 20s, I had a relationship where I had a best friend and we ended up dating, right? And we were very much alike. But when I tell you that that was my best friend for 9 years before we started to date, and when I got all up into my emotions, I wasn't listening to nothing. I would cut them off. I would overtalk them. But I was young and I wanted to be heard. And I didn't feel like there were times I was being heard in that relationship. So, okay, I felt like I was at times being disrespected. So now I'm getting ready to match your energy. And needless to say, not only did I lose my relationship, but I lost my best friend because we lack communication and the ability to respect one another in order to listen, to understand, right? And so I'm speaking from experience, and I've had relationships since then to where my outcome has been totally different because once I unlearned and relearned how to actually listen, and what I do is I mentally and psychologically and consciously cut my anticipation of what I'm going to say short. So when my head is starting to chitter chatter while he is speaking, or no matter whether it's he or she, anybody that I'm communicating with, and I feel that there's a difference of opinion, I just shut it off. And it took a long time, but I'm so glad it's something that I stuck with and that I wanted to refine in my abilities to be able to improve on my portion and my contribution to a relationship, that it has helped me in all of my relationships with my children, with strangers, when I worked for other people, it was co-workers, family members, relationships between, me and a man, all of that. So that is critically important, that you listen to understand, not minimizing anything else that he said, but I did want to put emphasis on that because personally, that's how it affected me in my journey. And so to piggyback off of that, SJ says, listening to understand and being empathetic takes practice and time, but you can do it with work. Come on, sis. Boy, I'm telling you, right now, I don't know if y'all notice it, but I didn't read her statement or her comment. I just highlighted it because she's been dropping gems since the live started. But everything that I'm saying is definitely relevant to the conversation, whether it's he saying it or my chat is saying it. So I appreciate y'all. Thank you for the engagement. Thank you for being here once more, and let's continue.
The leader, I have to consider that because, like I said, it's almost in servitude of those who's following you. So I'm there to help her as she is there to help me. Mm-hmm. The times to where, and situations that we've been in even recently, to where people who aren't empathetic at all, when I think of, all right, there's this person that I know that we talk about who's not empathetic to the people that they're supposed to be leading.
Yeah.
But then I think about that person's mindset. That person's selfish.
Yep.
That person always thinks about themselves. They can care less about what they do and how it affects others and anything like that. It's a very one-sided relationship to where they are at the forefront and they think because they are the boss by title that they can treat people and act how the way they want it, and you should bow down to them because of that. So I think,
and that's one of the reasons that these relationships often are not working today, is because they are one-sided. But I also have viewed, because I have sons that are pretty gapped in age. I'm one of those moms that people can say, girl, child, what was you thinking? You started all over again. I wouldn't trade it for the world, because I've learned so much through having my children when I did, and I don't feel like God makes any mistakes, and I feel thoroughly blessed. But what I've noticed is that there is such a lack of respect. And I know that word is heavy, but it's so undervalued. People just don't have common decency or respect anymore. And so God forbid that you attempt at having a lifelong partner, procreating with, sharing everything with, making a life-altering decisions with, you can't respect that person, how do you think that that relationship is going to have any level of success? It's not. Plain and simple, right? So let's continue.
Gets that intention and mindset. And I want to say on the flip side, when the controlling part is that it's tough. It's almost like when you work a job. So it's like when you work a job, you work an entry level job, right? And you're really, really good at that entry level job. Let's say you're really good at that job. Then you get promoted to a manager. Now you're managing other people in that entry level job. Now, of course, you could do their job probably better than they can because you were at that position once.
Maybe, yes.
Yeah, you were in that position. The reason you got promoted because you were so good at that thing.
Yeah.
But what you have to now consider is that I'm not here by myself anymore. I'm now in a position to where I am overseeing and managing other people in this position. So although I would have did it this way when I was by myself, now that I'm in a position where there are other people that I have to consider, I need to operate a little bit differently. And that's the same as you transition from being single to being in a relationship as a man. It's like, I did things on my own. I was by myself. And this is how I operated. But now when I'm in partnership with somebody else, I need to behave differently and be more empathetic and be more caring because I'm leading somebody else and in relationship and partner with somebody else. It's not about right or wrong. It's about empathetic and perspective.
Boom. There's that word again. Empathy, right? And so he is letting you know that that is a requirement. And so when you're by yourself, it's not as strong of a requirement as it is when you join forces with someone else and you include them in your life on a regular basis, to cohabitate, to marry, to form a strong friendship with an ally, any of that. Any relationship that includes reciprocity is going to require empathy, in my opinion. Let's continue.
It's saying that I like to show up to the airport 45 minutes before my flight. You like to show up 3 hours before your flight. I'm not saying I'm the man. This is how we doing it because I'm the man. It's like, no, there's different perspectives now. And I need to consider if you feel more comfortable showing up 3 hours early because of your anxiety and your paranoia. Okay, I'm hearing you. I'm listening to you. 2.5, 2. Can we meet in the middle? And figuring out what will make you feel comfortable. Not saying I'm the man. I know this. I know what to do. Don't worry about this. Like I got this. I fly all the time. I ain't never missed a flight. Like it's not about that.
It's not about that.
It's not about you controlling or being right. It's you're in partnership with somebody now. And leading is being in servitude of the people who are following and making them feel comfortable. And in return, they return that back to you. The relationship is right and what it's supposed to be.
Y'all, we can back up if you would like. Miss Michaela, I think your name was. I don't need it. You don't need my advice. Dre is got it 100% down. That is a leader. The person you're dating is a controller
and manipulator
and manipulative and probably abusive. Thankfully you only wasted 5 months or not a waste because it's not a loss. It's a lesson.
Yeah.
And y'all have a good one. I'm out of here.
There it is. So I'm going to drop the link with no further ado. If anybody wants to come and join me in the conversation, I would love to be able to engage and listen. Moreover, salute Ballhead Wayne. Thank you. I'm glad that you are in attendance and you are present. Thank you. Peace and blessings to you. I appreciate you. I just want to take one opportunity. I'm going on mute.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Loud and clear.
Okay, so thanks for having me, Miss Akimi. Hey, Andre, and hey, chat. How is everybody?
I am well. Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. So, first of all, men in the chat, this is not a conversation that you should be afraid of. I don't think that it's really like a pick a side type of conversation. But what I really wanted to talk about was, Miss Akimi, you said something earlier. Man, it just left my thoughts. But anyway, let me talk about empathy real quick because I don't want to be up here too long. Y'all know how I am. But so empathy, if anybody is wondering what that really means, is just putting yourself in someone else's shoes. So trying to look at their experience as if it was yours. I know sometimes people get that a little bit confused, but yeah, so that's empathy. And a lot of people that I've been working with that are my clients are struggling with their identity. So for me, it's surprising because I think that us as Black people, we struggle with that a lot because we don't know where we come from a lot of the time. But I'm working with all these diverse populations, and what I'm seeing is a lot of people are struggling to figure out where they come from and how they kind of fit into the world. And I am bringing that up because I think it's important to know who you are before you try to get into a relationship with someone else. Um, so I just thought that was really interesting with the video you just played about the men. I really can't speak to what the men think or, what they're going through, but that did help me to think about being more empathetic with men because, like you said, Miss Akimi, they are trying to figure things out too. And I think as women, we feel like you got to have it all together, or most of it together at least. And we should have time to kind of work on ourselves, do all this self-care and make ourselves better. But I just thought that was really interesting. And I'm going on mute.
Thank you so much for that perspective. I agree with you. And that's the only point I think that, was trying to be made in the original or the first video where the gentleman was talking about empathy and being empathetic, sympathetic, and being in charge of the people that were not in charge of, but taking charge. And so being protective, being assuming the role and the responsibilities of protecting and to make sure that everybody's good, as opposed to just trying to control, right? So I think that there's a fine line. And I think some of us get it wrong. And I'm not just saying men, I'm talking about women too, because we have a lot of controlling women just like men, in my opinion. And so definitely, we're looking at, because one thing about, being on this panel and on this page is I think that there's definitely an opportunity to present solutions as opposed to just presenting the problem and in order to get engagement. And I just want to say before Andre jumps in the fire, like he said in that comment, I just want to preface this. I'm not saying that I agree with everything that has been said. I vocalize what I agree with, but I also want to provoke conversation and interaction because as women, we don't know everything when it comes to men, right? We don't know as a whole, or at least I don't. Let me speak for me. I don't know everything when it comes to relationships. I'm still working on this relationship thing at the age that I am. I'm not ashamed to say it. But at least I am making the conscious effort and that I'm willing to learn and to reestablish, unlearn and relearn where it's applicable, what makes a successful relationship work. I had examples from my parents. I was blessed to have both parents in my life. However, my parents, they had a relationship where I learned a lot more of what not to do than what to do. And that made a big difference in the outcome of the success of my relationships. But I have to say that in the last 15 years, let me tell you, that has been priority number one. I had to fix myself and I had to heal myself from past traumas, from past experiences that where it did not work. And I was willing to take accountability for my participation as to why the outcome was not successful in that relationship. And I'm okay with that, because now it's like, all right, so any relationship that I get into, the one thing that I have now that I probably did not have 20, 25 years ago was self-reflection, and just being willing to accept and to be willing to change and modify my behavior. So with that said, thank you for being patient, Andre, and I'm going on mute.
Hey, good evening, ladies. Good evening. I'll say this, from my perspective. I think the first snippet I've seen, because I think I caught 30 minutes of your presentation, so I'm late. He mentioned something about empathy and learning how to be a leader, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Granted, yeah, but communication is key, and you have to see things from every aspect in order to be a great leader. So I got what he's saying. Would I say empathy? Not necessarily, but listening and communicating well is, from what I've learned over the years, makes a great quality of being a leader, especially a man. You got to cover all bases, because we as men, we take punches to the gut and the face everywhere, from work, even at home, from our significant others. But the second gentleman, disagree to agree to an extent, because I don't necessarily need a woman in my life to validate myself as being a leader, because I know I can be a great leader. It's just up to that woman to believe in me and trust in me to be that leader. You see what I'm saying? And if she allows me to lead instead of trying to jump in front of me and try to belittle me, then we could make it. But throughout my relationship life, I can spill some beans as well. I had to learn how to listen first, because I never learned that aspect. And once I gotten the hang of that, I've noticed that in the relationships that I had, it was good, but the women that I messed with, of course, they're not with me right now, but they came back, and of course we talked it over, but that's that. But I think the best quality in being a leader is communication, because if you could defend a woman, love a woman, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, in spades, that's cool, but communication is key. And hopefully she hears you out and understands, understands me and see my perspective, where I'm coming from, as well as I can listen to her. And I'm about to go on mute.
Okay, so Andre, before you resolve yourself to being on mute, let me just say to everybody on the panel in the chat, this is the key to provoking conversation. If we agreed with what everybody said, whether it was the video reference, to the people in the chat, to the panel, guess what? We wouldn't really have any stimulating conversation or provoke any thought. But I don't profess personally, and I can only speak again from my personal experience, nor do I want the responsibility of trying to profess to understand where men are coming from. I want to understand where you are coming from, because in order for me to be able to communicate effectively, I have to understand who you are as a person, what your expectations are, what you feel your roles are in a relationship, right? Or in a friendship, or in a parental and child relationship. Because to me, it spreads across the board. Even though you have specific behaviors to specific roles, the fact of the matter is that at some point there is a one size fits all, because of your integrity, because of your characteristics, because of your belief system. And so this is doing exactly what I was hoping that it would do, and that would stimulate conversation from both sides. I don't want everybody to agree. I don't necessarily agree with everything that he said, because I'm not a man. So I don't understand what a heterosexual dominant male perspective is coming from. This is just one person's perspective. This is one person's opinion. And he has a right to vocalize his personal, because it goes off of his personal experience, which is not going to match yours. It's not going to match Bolo's. It's not going to match O Speaks. And that's fine. But that's why these conversations are so necessary and so important, because as women, we need to understand our men in
Right.
order to be able to know how to interact with our men, to better understand our roles in the relationships. What is, because I'm going to be honest with you, I have been a provider and a nurturer for a long time, to the point where I'm tired of providing solely to where I can't properly nurture, in my opinion, or give what I have to give because of the lines being skewed. So in order for me to reestablish the proper parental roles and lines, I need to understand where my men is coming from, right? So I don't know. With that, if you have any type of feedback on that, if not, then we'll go ahead and let Kimar speak.
Can I say
No.
something real quick? Oh, I'm
Yes.
Wait,
sorry.
no. Ladies
Uh,
first. Go ahead. What you got?
I think it is so interesting that the men are going crazy over this word empathy. I
Hey man,
think
that's the
that is
wrong
so
word though. I
funny.
mean, is it the chat going in? I'm sorry if I cut you off, but the
Yes.
chat going
Yeah,
in on the word.
well, kinda.
I mean,
I
I'm
want to
glad.
know what is,
Wrong terminology, man. Wrong
why
terminology. I'm not
is
looking
it?
at the chat real
Do
talk,
you?
but communication is essential. I wouldn't say empathy either, but nah.
Okay,
But
so Andre, why wouldn't you say? I'm sorry, SJ.
no, that's okay. That was my question.
No.
Why?
She's good.
Why is the word? Okay, so let me ask you this question first. When
Okay,
O speaks, he said trust is the proper word. Do you agree or disagree?
100% agree.
Okay, and explain, if you don't mind, why.
I mean, trust is everything. If you don't trust us to lead, then we don't have a relationship. Period. If you don't trust me in my everyday shenanigans of life as a provider, a lover, we can't go anywhere. And I'm only speaking from experiences, whereas young ladies, they say they trust me only to put me in their category based on previous behaviors they've experienced and what you were saying about the traumatic experiences that women encounter. You see what I'm saying? See, I had two older sisters, and unfortunately, I learned from what they've experienced. I say unfortunately because there were some bad experiences, but I took the positives out of those situations. And my mom's same way. And I told myself, I don't want to be that statistical black guy. You know what I mean? And so I try to hold myself to a standard. I mean, I made some questionable choices in life too, because hey, we all have, and I can own it. But trust is the biggest thing. Trust us to lead. Trust us to love you. Just trust us. Don't assume. Don't put us in a category. Trust us. Communicate with us. Don't assume what we're saying. Hear us out as we try to explain it and express it with you guys. I can admit that I'm still learning to be an active listener when it comes to young ladies. I can admit that, but I'm always willing to try. I just want that same grace. You know what I mean? If that
Yes.
makes sense.
No, it makes all the sense in the world. SJ, what do you have on?
So I agree with all of that, but I also agree that communication is more than listening, responding. Relationships are more than just trust. And I think that you men are scared of the word empathy because maybe you feel like it's more of a feminine thing to empathize. Um, but that's not true. Um, so just because you empathize with the other sex, like I can empathize with, say, a guy is a skydiver, right? I've never done that, but he's sitting and he's telling me this experience that he's had. I can like put myself in his shoes and be like, wow, that must have been like exhilarating. Like, so I don't think that is going as far as like trying to take on the role of the opposite sex. And I think that's okay. I just think it's amazing that the men see it this way, because I never thought that it would be such a divide. So it's super interesting. And Bolo, yes, I see you with the shaking my head and all that stuff. But it's we have different perspectives, and it's okay. But I want to know more about this empathy thing because I think it's interesting.
Well, for my personal experiences, yeah, the empathy word is kind of, I wouldn't use that, but even with active listening that I've learned over the years and trying to be sensitive to her needs as a partner, I was still placed in the category as what you stated, empathy makes you look weak. Those young ladies anyway thought I was weak. So I don't know what to say about that one as a response to you, but I do hear what you're saying. Real talk. I hear what you're saying. I'm just going to respectfully disagree to agree, but you were on point on a lot of things. Real talk.
Yeah, and I don't want y'all to just agree with me like Miss Akimi said.
Right.
I am just interested in people, period, and how they think and how they function and all of this. But it's like we're cussing at you, like calling y'all out y'all name to say that you can be
Man, that
empathetic.
had to happen. Oh my
No,
God, I'm
we
sorry.
definitely said a bad word, sis.
Yeah. So that's all I'm saying. That is just very interesting to me. Like, you guys can feel how you feel, but now I'm going to be paying more attention to men, just because I really think it's interesting. So I'm not saying it's wrong. How you feel is how you feel, but I'm interested as to why you feel how you feel, I guess.
Well,
Understandable.
yeah.
I'm sorry, Mr. Kimmy. You was about to say something.
No, you go ahead. I'm sorry. I was just going to introduce and allow Miss Kim Mar. She has been so super patient, but we only have one man on the panel. So if you have some type of comment or pushback or response, I think we definitely want to hear it. Since Bolo don't want to hit I called you. He don't want to hit the link, talking about he gonna sit this one out. I ain't never heard Bolo say he gonna sit nothing out.
Exactly.
He ain't never ran from no smoke. So I'm
My
trying to
dude,
understand, and none of the explanations you have given me, sir, has provided any type of justification why you would want to sit this one out. Because I ain't never seen you run from no smoke. But I love you. Go ahead, Andre.
But not. I definitely don't come with the pushback because to me that's not great communication. I come back with a response, if that makes sense. I don't want to push back or anything. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So even though I disagree with some of the things that you guys have said, I still take for what you say for granted. You know what I mean? It's another perspective and it's another way to look at things. Even though I'm staying 10 toes down on things, I still like to learn, and I still want to hear from young ladies like yourself on things in life. So you can go ahead and get Kim R in. I'll go on mute, as you guys say. Hopefully I said that right.
Appreciate you, Andre. Thank you so much. I'm glad that you actually are representing and that you hit the link and that you're giving your perspective. And you know what? I'm with KB. I don't want nobody that's gonna always agree with me or any, the collective. I want someone that is a free thinker, that is not afraid or not hesitant, in other words, to speak their own personal experiences as to why they draw the conclusions that they draw. And again, I'm just going to re-emphasize that I'm not a man. I'm not trying to be a man. I don't want a man's role. I just want to be able to understand a man so I can play my role more effectively or sit in my femininity more effectively in order to desire the more positive and the more successful outcome. And so with that being said, Kimar, listen, you get such 100% and patience today. Thank you so much for being here. And we are all going on mute.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me just fine?
Perfectly clear. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna speak as the old married lady perspective. It's been a long time since I've been single. I've known my husband for about 20 years. So it's been a long time since I've, been trying to, marriages work. And I want people to understand that we work at it daily. And I think that the movies, social media, these celebrities, they give a false impression of what it means to be in a relationship, particularly what it means to be in a marriage. And I was having this discussion with one of my girlfriends that, that these movies, they have both men and women in a fantasy world about what it really means, really, when it comes to a marriage. It's not all flowers and love and kisses and romance all the time. It's working in there. Some days where you just don't even want to see each other's face. But I mean, just being honest, but I love my husband, no matter what. But I know sometimes I get on his nerves and he gets on mine sometimes, but we work through it together. And I had to really learn that sometimes I don't always need to talk. Sometimes I don't always need to respond. And that's something that if he's saying something and I don't really agree, but he's, something that's making a decision for our life. Even if I don't really agree, sometimes I have to just be quiet and listen to his perspective. And he, gives me that same. And, if it's just a disagreement, sometimes I don't always, having the last word is not so important. Sometimes you just need to be quiet. And I really had to learn that. Any opinions on any of that?
Panel?
Well, if I can jump in for a minute, getting the last word in, I mean, at least from my perspective, I killed that part of my life like 15 years ago in my 20s, you know what I'm saying? And I'm a non-argumentative type person. And if we can't come to like an agreement, then what the heck, So to me, getting the last word in means nothing to me, because if the situation isn't fixed, then it's still going to be a problem. It's going to be an issue. But salute to your 20-year marriage. I wish I had that. I ain't gonna front. It's hard out here in these streets.
Facts. I'm with you on that, Andre. Definitely. And I'm
Yeah.
going to remember.
I'm gonna give you mad flowers for that one, for real. Jesus. I mean, I was engaged once, but I'm sorry, you were saying something.
No, go ahead.
No, what I was sharing my personal experience, like I was engaged once, but after a few counseling sessions and a few talks with Jesus, I popped smoke. I didn't get cold feet. It was more like the person I was trying to marry was somebody totally different. And I don't want that in a partner, you know what I mean? So I know we all change over time in life, but she did an entire 360. But still, again, kudos to your 20 years. And I really want that. I really do.
Okay, and then what else? Oh, and I was, one thing that I have noticed is that, and I see these shows, and I used to watch the show, The Four Weddings, and it's like this competition with the most extravagant wedding, and I think that things like that make people lose focus on the work that is in marriage. You're so focused on the for everyone. And my husband and I were watching, when I laugh, it's like, man, can you believe we got married for, I think, $60? We went to the court. We paid $30 for the lot, and we went to the courthouse, a few days later and paid $30 or whatever to the judge, and today. And we didn't spend, we didn't have it, but we didn't have the big show. And so many people, they won't go. But after the show's over, then what? And so I think that that's a lot of problems with relationships. And one other thing that a rule that we have lived by is we keep other people out of our relationship. I don't tell my mother or my aunts or anyone if I'm having a disagreement with my husband. This is nobody's business but ours, and we work it out. I don't tell my girlfriends what's going on in my marriage. It's none of their business. We handle our relationship between the two of us, and he does the same thing. You know, it's hard, but it's up to us. We're the ones that took those vows and made the commitment. It's not everybody else outside's role to be involved, because you know my mom, she's a little clingy, and if I were to be a husband and she gets upset with him, but we already moved on and fixed it, and she's still mad about something, so I don't think that that's wise to bring other people into your relationship. That's not going to go over well. I've seen it in friends and in family who had all of their family members and friends involved in everything that was going on in their relationship. We just don't do that. Not at all. I'm on mute.
I think that that's probably one of the reasons your marriage has been so successful and has had longevity. I agree with that 110%. And so with that being said, definitely, I agree with you in that. Keep people out your business. Does not having a direct effect or contribution to your personal household. And even if they do, that should be limited, because when you marry, I personally feel like that is a covenant between you and your husband. And that's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, great point. I'm gonna say this much and jump off. That keeps the peace in your household too. And I know for me, I'm a peaceful guy. To keep the peace going, you know what I mean? Like no outside interferences. Let's just talk it out. Keep the peace, And I think that's one of the greatest baselines in any relationship. But you ladies have fun. It's been great. I'm going back in the chat. Salute to you guys.
Thank you. Thank you, Andre, for coming up on the panel. Peace and blessings to you. And I respect your perspective. Absolutely.
Yours as well. God bless.
Thank you. All right, ladies, if there's anything else that y'all want to add, how do you feel? Let me ask you this, Ms. Kimar, if you don't mind. What are your thoughts on the word empathy when it comes to marriage or to your marriage?
Well, I think I don't really know how to answer that. Let me think about it.
Yeah, that's fine. We got Miss Juicy Fruit that just entered the panel, and I'm so glad that you're here. Thank you so much for hitting the link, and we are interested in seeing what you have to add to the conversation. And I'm going on work.
Okay, thank you. I'm so sorry. I'm moving and shaking, but I wanted to hit the panel. I'm glad I had time. I didn't want to offer too much. I just wanted to, when the empathy topic was being discussed, to me, empathy is just basically putting yourself in the other person's shoes. And I think that in relationships, that's important, because if you can understand someone, I feel like you can better help them. You can better love them. You can, better position yourself, to be whatever you're supposed to be in the relationship. So, I know, for example, like when anytime I've been in relationships, stopping to just kind of put myself in that other person's shoes, like, man, what's he been going through? Okay, what's been going on? It can just understanding him a little bit more helped me to love him better and helped me to be a better woman to him, if that makes sense. So I think that's kind of what SJ was talking about when she was saying, that empathy in the relationship is important, or at least that's what I gather from it.
Yes, ma'am. That's what I was saying. What happened to Miss Akimi? Well, she'll be back. But yes, that's what I was saying. And I think that I'm not speaking for all men, but I hear a lot of men say, I think Andre might have said this, like they go through all of these battles at work and out in the world and all of these other things. And so when they come home, they're looking for peace. And I think without empathy, it would be impossible for us to provide a peaceful atmosphere, because they're looking for us to be like, okay, I hear you. You said you've gone through this. We haven't necessarily gone through it, but when we're empathetic, we put ourselves in that position to be like, oh, wow, that must be real crazy. That must be really hard. So let me chill. Let me keep this.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think they're asking for empathy, but they're scared to reciprocate it for some reason, which I still want to know more about.
I think if they understood the power of it, because understanding your woman, if you're able to demonstrate that you understand her, she's going to appreciate that. You're going to get more of what you want from her.
Yes.
You talk about that trust that you want. Yeah, of course you want the trust, but that has to be earned, baby. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think I think men are like, they want women to submit. Submitting is fine. As a woman, I don't have a problem with submitting, but I'm not following no fool. If you want me to follow you, I need to know the plan. You know what I'm saying? I'm not following blindly. I'm not a fool. So, I'm not going to fight you. I'm not trying to go against the grain, but I need to know that you can lead before I follow. And the only way that you can lead me, one way that you have to know me, you have to understand me. You have to be able to empathize with my struggles as a woman and what I'm going through. So, it has to be done on both sides. It has to.
And, I think that actually they probably, if they are in a good marriage or relationship, they probably are empathetic, but they just don't know it. So I bet if, we could pull out examples of them being specific as to how they lead and do things, they would see that they are empathetic. But for some reason that just scares them. I won't say scares, but that is like a curse word to them. But I that's so funny to me.
Any man that's in a relationship right now is being empathetic. Trust and believe. Because let's put ourselves in men's shoes. Men exude an astounding amount of patience when it comes to women. I know they do.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? If we just keeping it a buck. Sometimes I used to just look at my man. Thank you for being so patient with me, because I know, you know what I'm saying, if this was on the flip, on my nerves, you know what I'm saying? So, like different things like that. Yeah, if they're in a relationship, they're practicing empathy. Whether they know it or not.
If they're in a good relationship.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Yes, I agree.
I also concur with that, Juicy Fruit. I'm looking at, okay, so Speaks, are you able to hit the link? Because I'm trying to gain and I think me, SJ, and Juicy Fruit are trying to gain some type of understanding. That is why we're having this conversation. Now, I just want to bring a reminder that at the beginning of this stream, when the word empathy was introduced in the perspective and in the context that it was by a man. It was not by, okay, I got you. It wasn't by a woman. It was by a man. And so, that wasn't something that a woman introduced on this panel. And I'm not saying that that should make a difference in your response. But what I am saying is that there evidently, whether it's the wrong word and a similar definition utilized by a different term, the fact of the matter, I think as women, maybe if I'm getting this wrong, ladies, correct me. But like SJ just said, you know, we're just looking for some type of understanding. Like Juicy Fruit said, you know, you can definitely respond in a fashion that benefits the whole relationship if you understand where we're coming from. And so trust does not fall, in my opinion, it doesn't fall under that definition of trust. There has to be some type of understanding or level of understanding for a man to understand where his woman is coming from in order to be able to come to an agreement that this is where we are, this is what we need as individually as well as collectively. So if that word is a trigger for y'all, that's fine. And if he was wrong, that's cool too. You know, but we're not men. And we had Andre W. up here give his perspective and speak on the behest of the men in you know, in the conversation, which is fine. And so I don't know, I can't speak for everyone on this front, but I can say for me, look, a man said that. I didn't say that. That's not a position that I came shooting from all fronts on. I don't know. What I am saying is that there should be a level of understanding mutually, because if a man doesn't understand anything about a woman and her femininity, and if a woman doesn't understand and respect where a man is coming from, then how in the hell does communication become effective? Or how do we meet the middle ground? How do we establish balance in the relationship? I'm not married, so I'm not professing to know it all. And I'm not saying that married people should be put on a pedestal per se. I think long-term marriages definitely should definitely be acknowledged, and there's some credence that should be attached to that union, that long-term union. But what I am saying is that we have to meet each other halfway. And so, Bolo, I'm gonna say for you, you keep putting the zip and you're not going to say anything, but how can we as women gain any type of understanding if we don't understand where you are coming from or how you feel about that particular term? Because it's that word empathy that is setting all of the males off in the chat. And that's not an analogy, that's a fact, right? So no, O speaks, that's fine, and no problem. I respect your opinion. It's all great. I was just taking a shot in it, but I'm just trying to, and I think we are all trying to gain some understanding. Right now, we're all women on the panel. Now you have Kim R. that's been in a long-term marriage that has vocalized her perspective on what has made her marriage successful. You got Juicy Fruit and you got SJ that have both said, is that word a trigger, or is it maybe synonymous with something else that we could have a conversation about? Now, Bolo, I'm just going to keep it real. I'm surprised. And I respect it. I totally respect where you're coming from, but I'm surprised because I've never seen you shy away from a conversation. And I think that we have women in this chat and on this panel that would totally be willing to be receptive to your perspective and your opinion on where we're coming from, because we're really just trying to gain understanding and some type of insight. So, I mean, no pressure, but I'm just, I got to keep it a buck. I got to keep it 100. So let's look at what T. Smith has to say. Got rid of all my lady friends. They want too much, and if I let them stay tonight, I couldn't have no peace. Listen, I ain't got nothing to do with that. I don't know. I don't even know how to respond to that. So
T. Smith is wild.
Yeah, that's a whole different dynamic outside of what we're talking about. Because the objective of this conversation for me is how do we heal the familial core, and how do we start healing our relationships so that we can move forward? Because we can't combat the do dirties. We can't acquire land and combine value of different talents, of different gifts, of what, to me, in my opinion, God designed and ordained us to be able to come collectively together and to procreate and to establish generationally, and progress generationally, right? So to me, that's the bigger picture. But we have to start at some point, and we have fall victim, and we have fall subject to the division of the family for so long from so many different avenues, which lets me know that there has been an attack. There has been a severe attack on the family core, which is letting me know that there was a lot of value, and that there is a lot of value there, right? And so if we can get past the small stuff, so if we're talking about the one word empathy, or the term of empathy, or we're speaking on the aspect of defining what that means in the realm of a relationship, then we're kind of in a pickle, because we got bigger fish to fry. But we can't progress, and we can't go up as a unit if we don't gain some understanding. And that means, like I said, generationally, it has been lost for our men to understand women, and our women to understand our men. And without proper understanding, we can't go anywhere. And so that's where I'm at with it, right? And so there's a bigger picture than just not wanting to engage in the conversation because you don't want to ruffle feathers, or you don't want to, come off as being abrasive, when these are conversations that we can't progress upon or build upon if we don't gain some type of proper understanding. And I am the first to say that I am issuing transparency. I am issuing my level of ignorance, because everything is transitional, everything is progressional, everything changes from day to day. So my understanding of a successful relationship 10 years ago does not necessarily fit the criteria of what is required today. And so that's why I'm impressing upon the men that no matter how uncomfortable it may be, we want to hear your perspective. We want to hear your conversation. You can go up against the SBS sector of being called all these different names, and have thumbnails made of you into different creatures and characters. But we don't want to have this conversation that could possibly help start the healing process of the family, of the core of unity, and be able to progress. It can't be that serious in my eyes. I'm having some understanding, trying to process that portion of the conversation. And with that, I'm going on mute. If you ladies have anything else to contribute, I encourage you to say what you feel needs to be said, whatever is laid on your heart, and whatever you feel could benefit, maybe not in the short run, but in the long-term conversation of being able to heal the family unit and to gain some understanding between our men and our women, so we can progress forward, gain some land, we can procreate in peace, have some common understanding, and be able to reestablish a strong foundation, so we can have some type of a weaponry foundation to be able to combat all of these different things that are coming at us. Because right now we are at odds with each other, and we are fighting a losing battle. I'm looking at it from the bigger picture, and this shit is more serious than the word empathy, or how we're looking at it from a vantage point of a man or a female. And I go on mute.
Yes, Miss Akimi. This has been a really good eye-opening conversation. Um, and it's funny we're talking about communication, um, but there is no flexibility from the men that are here to communicate their feelings about what's going on now. But O Speak said, and I think he was making a joke that we don't understand empathy because we're not getting what they're saying now. And so thinking about that, I think, you just got to let people be them, and you got to let them think how they think, right? And you really can't beat a dead horse. So I think that is where I'm going to bow out. But I think this was really great. I wish that they would have participated, because I feel like we were up here like begging them, like, no, we want to hear from you. We want to learn more. We want to understand better. And they didn't hop on the chance. So that was a little disappointing, but thank you guys. I'm going to head back to the chat now.
Miss Akimi, can I just say something? I just wanted to say really quickly, because I'm gonna have to drop back down, but I just wanted to say, guys, this is a safe place for you.
Yes.
We're asking because we really want to know. And I know it might seem like we're being a little aggressive and asking, but we're asking because we really, really, really want to know. So, this is a safe place. If there's anywhere that you can come and voice your perspectives and your opinions, is here. And don't be afraid. And Bolo, I'm glad you're up here. I'm about to drop down.
Thank you, Juicy Fruit, for being a part of the conversation. Thank you so much, Ms. SJ. I appreciate you. Bolo, before you speak, I just want to say I didn't go on about you for 15 minutes. I kind of threw you in the conversation of other things as well. So I love you. I appreciate you. The dynamics of me and you have not shifted, not one iota, but I value your opinion, and that might seem like it puts pressure upon you, and I apologize if so. But because I value your opinion and your perspective, I'm not accustomed to you going silent, and I apologize if I did not respect the fact that you wanted to be in the chat and not come up on the panel. And so, and I'm gonna leave it at that. So I'm gonna go on mute.
Yeah. It's not even that serious, man. I was just joking with that. I was like, God damn, Mr. Kim, you throwing shots at me, haymaker.
No, I wasn't. I really
You actually was, though.
I was not.
Those references that you made was about me. People can put your face up and you can go against the SBS. I'm like, God damn, Mr. Kim, you laying all real thick right now, God damn it.
Well, I apologize and I'm sorry, and I apologize and I'm sorry.
Man, you was in an out-of-body experience. You was in an out-of-body experience, man. You was like, boy, you better get up here. I can't believe you. You don't run away from shit. That's how you better get up here right now. But listen, man, I think what is the issue with this particular situation is I think the women are caught up. I think that interview that was did, they were talking to one specific individual and his situation, or her or their situation. And one size does not fit all. Everybody cannot lead the same. Leading with empathy is cool and all, but there's other aspects which Andre said perfectly that is more meaningful to him as a leader. And it's still effective, in my opinion. And the next guy, he says a lot of stuff, in my opinion. I've listened to a lot of his quotes. A lot of it is word salad, because they're catering to an audience, and they have following, and women seem to fall for the okie doke. Oh, it sounds good. It sounds good. Shout out to Armando. But in real life, though, that's not what it really is. I'm very, I'm sad to to break it to you like that. That's why I said I didn't want to come up here because I didn't want to break nobody's bubble. But bruh, trust me, what he thought, most of the stuff that dude talking about, nah, that ain't it. Yeah, because when you start to generalize, that's when you fall in error. Every single relationship is unique. Each individual within their relationship, they gotta find their way. You know what I'm saying? To make it work. That's why life is so beautiful, because life is all about uniqueness. Everybody's different type of person. One size don't fit all. Some of the things, yes, core-wise communication is very necessary. It's good to have somebody that, from a home where they got balance, where they learn from their father and their mother. That's also good as well. Some things are basically true. But in terms of relationship, man, there's no one answer that fits everybody. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I got to break it to y'all, but that's not it. That's all I got to say about it.
Can I just, thank you for everybody that's coming on the panel. I'm getting ready to give you the floor. I just want to respond to Bolo. First of all, let me just clarify something here. Because I played that clip doesn't mean that I necessarily agree with it. I picked that because I thought it would provoke conversation. That's my main objective. I'm also one of those ones, even though I am still learning how to play chess and I know how to do checkers really well, when it comes to life's experiences and provoking thought, I played chess before checkers because I understand the concept. So I knew that at some point, now I didn't know to what degree it was going to ruffle, some of the men's feathers, because I am men. I'm a woman. I'm not a man. Retract that. Don't clip that up. I retract that. Listen, pause. However, I'm just going to say and clarify that I wanted to have and provoke a conversation between men and women to get a balanced perspective and to get an equilibrium of men and women. It's not a point, Bolo, about agreeing or disagreeing with what was said. It's about provoking conversation and coming to some type of equilibrium and balance to be able to say, because my ultimate objective, there is no secret. I want to heal our relationships, because before we can fight in the war that has been designed and has been orchestrated decades before we were even made aware that it was a war, guess what? We're going to have to heal our families. And whatever that requires, I will be the unpopular. I will be the controversial. My platform will be whatever people classify it to be. If we can agree to disagree and still find a way to heal the core of society and of humanity, which is our families. If we can't agree on a term, if we can't agree on a concept, if we can't agree upon the definition of something that is prominent in our, prominently used when it comes to familial relationships in our families, then we've already lost the war. So I'll take the loss at the beginning if we can all get the desired outcome, which means that we don't have to agree, but at least come to some mutual understanding and even playing ground to be able to say, okay, you are who you are, you're your own individual being. I am who I am my own individual being. We have our own unique different life journey experiences, but let's bring those together and see how we can build from there and establish generational legacy. And that's where I'm at with it.
I agree with you on most of those points, but I just think that there is a phrase in the Bible that speaks about being evenly yoked. This is why I say that every individual is not the same. And it is what it is. There are some individuals that you just won't be able to be evenly yoked with as a heterosexual. But there's definitely somebody out there for you. So I think it's more about communication and trust between those two individuals, and then that's how they could build from there. You know what I'm saying? It's not so much about empathy, because to be honest with you, there's some things that women cannot empathize. Like putting herself in that man's shoe, she really can't do that all the way, and he really can't do it all the way for her as well. So just, I know women are more locked in about feeling, so the word empathy draws them in. But really and truly, it's just like what Andre said. It's more about trust and communication. Really and truly, that's just my opinion. And I'm only
Well, I respect your feedback and your opinion for that matter, and it's well received. And that's what I don't know if you guys understand that. It's like, I think collectively, as women that are present on this panel and in the chat, we're open to learning more about your mindset and your expectations and the approach that you have to relationships, because a lot of us females have not had the proper representation, or have not had the same representation of what we are on the receiving end as of today. And so, it's okay. And that's the thing, is that I want to make it okay on this platform to be able to disagree and still look at the same type of goal and outcome, right? There's nothing wrong with that. I don't want nobody around me that always that always agrees with me. I just don't. There's no challenge in it. There's no growth in it. There's no learning in it. And so I have, intentionally promoted this atmosphere for us to have this type of tough conversation that needs to be had in order for us to be able to propel and move forward. Like Kim R is on the panel, and we're looking forward to her to participating because she's a diamond in the rough when it comes to having a long-term marriage, relationship, raising children, juggling careers, and all of that. We don't have that as a collective. And it used to be a collective as a whole. And so my hopes and aspirations is to make that okay again collectively, and not just an isolated incident. And with that, I'm going on mute. T. Smith, thank you for hitting the panel.
One second, before T. Smith goes, shout out to SJ in the chat that she's gonna zip her lip now. Y'all funny as hell, man. But listen, man, I wasn't triggered by the word. I just assessed the situation and said that was not the wrong. That was the wrong assessment or wording for the particular situation in terms of generalizing. However, the individual that he was talking about, the brother, it definitely could apply to his life personally. Maybe he doesn't exercise enough empathy in his relationship, but it's not a broader thing where we're going to generalize that, oh, that's just the problem with most men, that they're not exercising empathy. And I think that's where, I'm like, you know what? I just want to listen in the chat to see where this is going. You know what I'm saying? I just wanted to listen in the chat to see where this is going. I don't want to always be the one to come up here and share my view. I would love for you to pressure other men in the chat to come up and share their views. I just want to stay in the cut and listen and type. All right, that's all. It's not that deep. I'm not sensitive. I'm not triggered. None of that. I'm not scared of empathy. None of that.
I believe it.
Let me clear that up.
I believe it. I truly believe it. But I'm glad you hit the link in spite of, no matter what.
I'm going to have to say a few things.
Yes.
I have to
hold on, Miss Kimar. I'm so sorry. Give me I know you've been waiting.
Medicine distribution time.
Yes, but T. Smith is actually not spoken, and I just want to. He probably won't be long. So if you can just give him one moment, if you don't mind, Miss Kimar, and then you definitely can have the floor. T. Smith, thank you for hitting the panel, and we going on mute.
I was wondering if you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Well, Mr. Kimmy and Lou Bolo. But what I was trying, it's kind of like when you talk about, I missed most of your video, but for relationship wise, a lot of times people make things difficult, but I think that you would have to start with, if you're a spiritual person, you get your relationship from the Most High. And then you have to have an understanding.
I'm so sorry. Your connection is not clear. I don't know if you're on a Bluetooth or on a car connection, but it's coming in a little like I'm struggling to have to decipher your words.
And Mr. Kimi, I think Miss Kim R needs to go feed her family. So.
Oh, okay, all right.
You know what I mean?
Yes, all right.
Oh no,
well,
not that I need to feed. I need to do medicine distribution for.
Yes. Okay, all right. So T. Smith, while you're fixing your audio, go ahead, Ms. Kimar. We're listening.
From what the little I could hear from T. Smith, I think where he was going is that you have to make sure that your I think he was talking about marriage or relationship in general, that is foundation. It is founded on, the teachings of the Most High, the Bible. I think that's where he was going, and I 100% agree with that. The foundation has solid, but I also agree with with where Bolo is going with and we understand that every relationship is different. Every person is different, and at least for my marriage, it took me a while to completely understand that my husband is a man of few words. He does not like long, drawn-out conversations, and I tend to babble on sometimes. And it took me a while to realize that he just sometimes just likes things to just be quiet. And I actually made a comment in one of Miss Yo Thoughts videos. She was saying something about what does the man want, and I commented he wants to be left alone. And that at least in my household, when my husband comes home, he doesn't want to be bombarded. He wants to just sit in his recliner and just have a moment. And that's me, that's the kids, that's just leave them alone for a little bit. Let me just decompress. And we get it. And just having that understanding of each other needs. And he understands that sometimes I like to talk, and he'll listen, but I understand that there's a limit to that he doesn't want to hear, he doesn't always have to contribute to what I'm saying. He'll listen to me, but for me to expect him to have this long drawn out conversation and how he feels about this, he don't really care about all that. He really doesn't. And I respect the fact that he was honest with me and told me that I just can't do this. I'm not your girlfriend. I can't do this. And I respect that. And so it's just knowing what each other brings to the table. What's your strong suit? I'm very organized. I'm the one that keeps the the spreadsheet of the bills and how everything, the QuickBooks. I do that. And I'm the cook, I'm the this, but he's the builder, he's the doer, he's the, so knowing what each other brings to the table. And, we talked about, when the ish hits the fan, what are you going to do? We know what our role, including the children. What's your role? What are you going to do? What's your strong suit? I think you need to have that conversation and and get out of the fantasy land of everything's romantic and clouds and flowers and love kisses all the time, because that's not reality. But that's it. I'm done. I got to go distribute medication to everyone. So I will be listening from the chat.
Well, thank you, and well wishes to you and your family. Thank you, thank goodness that you're there for them to be able, and that you're well enough to nurse them back to health. So, well wishes from us and from myself to you and your family, and thank you for being here. All right, Bolo, you're not obligated to say. You felt like you were drawing out the bushes. I'm sorry.
You definitely did that. Ain't no way, bro. All this pressure, man. All this pressure. God damn. Sheesh.
I would definitely take that into account next conversation where you say you want to stay in the chat. I would
Man, I want you to play this back. I might just play it back on my do a reaction to this. Man, you was laying it on.
I expected
man, the shots was coming at me. You had the shotgun. You had all types of guns, rocket launchers. My goodness.
Wasn't that bad? Oh my
man, listen, boy, you ain't wasn't talking to nobody else but me.
Listen, I don't necessarily agree with that, because when I was really focusing on you, I really called your name. So I kind of digress, and I kind of give you pushback on that just a little bit. But I will say that I definitely did lay it on kind of thick, because I just wasn't accustomed to you not hitting the link.
Yeah, I know. But shout out to Miss Kim R, though. Her example of her husband, that's an excellent, segue into what I was saying. Like, everybody's different. What you gonna do with a husband that don't talk that much? Are you gonna?
You're in the Matrix.
Change that man. That man is who he is. You know what I mean? So, hey, every situation is different. It's unique, and you just got to figure it out. You got to understand each other. You got to figure it out.
I agree with that, and I appreciate Kimar coming up here and giving her definitely her personal source of wisdom as to what worked in her marriage, because I think as women, it's hard for a lot of us to accept that. And that the fact that a man wants to be left alone, oftentimes we interpret that as something different than just what it is.
Yes, sometimes they interpret this, the man don't love you. Oh, he got somebody else, trust me. It's not always the case. You know what I'm saying?
Totally get that. I get that now. But I can say honestly, 20 years ago, I was like, oh no, you got some side piece. There's something else going on other than what you're doing. For real. I'm not accepting. But also at that time, I was like in a mindset where I was like, okay, I'm doing everything right. I'm doing everything you expect me to do. So what's the problem? Why are you not giving me everything that I want or need or that I'm expecting? And so I'm transparent enough to say that, but that was like insanity. But I didn't know it at the time. You know what I'm saying? And so now I totally am a respecter of persons, or at least I try to be, and particularly when it comes to relationships.
I learned this in a relationship years ago. In terms of empathy, like no matter how much empathy I had, the situation that she was in terms of her health, it's something that I couldn't put myself in her shoe. I could have never understand that. And if I was the one that was going through what she was going through, she couldn't do it either. So even in relationships, there's just so far that empathy can go. You know what I mean?
Correct.
Really, truly is. Sometimes the best form of communication is non-verbal communication. Action. Not talk. You get me?
Now, had you not hit the panel, I wouldn't have learned that.
See, there you go.
No, look, I am so dead ass serious because even though it has processed to me on certain levels, the way that you just said it is so matter of fact, it just put it in such simple terms that now I have no excuse. And I'm being 100% authentic here, Bolo. No, I'm dead ass. I'm not
No,
trying
I'm not. I know you are. That's why it's so funny.
Yeah, no, I'm dead ass serious. But there was a certain part of me that was like, I want to hear from a man's perspective, his unedited, unadulterated, authentic, and raw perspective, because that's what we need to hear as women to be able to learn exactly how a man thinks and what makes him move and operate. Because as women, I don't care what we're told and what kind of music we listen to and what kind of news or shows or movies we go attend to see. The fact of the matter is that most of it's not telling the truth anyway. So I want to hear it from the source itself. And time is so of the essence that though it seems to be an uncomfortable conversation to have, it's one that has to be had in order for us to be able to heal and move forward. And that's all I got to say about that, because I repeated that throughout this live stream.
Yeah. Man, shout out to you, Mr. Kimi, for another fire topic.
Thank you.
You just keep getting better and better. It's like fine wine up in here.
Well, I sure appreciate your participation, your support, and I learned a lot from you. And I don't know how much of the beginning of the live you heard, but I gave shout outs because I don't do it as frequently as I think I should at the beginning of the stream. And I wanted to make sure that you got your flowers.
I definitely will listen to the playback, but I got some music in the background. I'm at my spot, so
okay, babe. All right, boo. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Have a good night. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay. Thank y'all so much. I'm not going to make this I made it a long intro, so the outro is going to be nice, brief, and short. Thank to everybody that came up on the panel when you didn't have to. I know this is a tough time slot when you have families, you have husbands, wives, you have obligations and responsibilities. I don't take it lightly. I just got to get in where I fit in. I'm still building and I'm still learning, and I'm still trying to participate in other people's channels and their growth. And I'm moderating in quite a few. And then I have my own family too. So I just want to say that it doesn't go unnoticed. I'm grateful. I'm appreciative. And I will be rewatching this live tonight because I think there was a lot of gems on both sides that were definitely implemented and brought to the table. And I think this is definitely a start and a beginning. So I'm so appreciative to everybody. I love all of y'all. Thank you for being a part of this conversation. I know that I'm a newcomer on these YouTube streets, and there are a lot of other people that you could be engaging in their live streams with. I don't know who is going live at the same time, and at the same point, everybody that was supposed to be here and engaged in the conversation was here. And so with that being said, shout out to everybody that came on the panel: Juicy Fruit, SJ, Miss Kimar, Bolo, Andre. And if there's anybody that I missed, I totally apologize. Oh, Mel W, I'm sure. I think I remember you coming up. O Speaks. So thank everybody for being here, and thanks for having the conversation. Thanks for being, even when you disagree, you were respectful. And I'm all for you being vocal, as long as there's respect, underlining the being vocal aspect of it. So with that, we're going to continue on this journey of trying to heal relationships, trying to become aware of what's going on in the world, so we can position ourselves as a people to collectively move forward, move effectively, and move as a community. And that's my hope and dream and my objective in all of this. And so with that being said, peace and blessings to everybody. I will talk to y'all soon, and much love. Okay. Y'all have a great night. Be safe and be prayerful. Thank you.